Every time I like near you, Matt, I can't get one right.
Good evening, everyone. We are going to call the meeting of the North Kingstown School Department Building Advisory Committee meeting to order. It is 5:00 p.m. on Wednesday, June 3rd. We're going to delay public comment for the time being, and we will get to it later in the agenda. There is an individual en route to provide comment, and we'll be delaying for that purpose. So holding on that for now. Going to the next item, which is approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 6, 2026?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion passes. Next item, item 4, school committee representative for the NK Asset Management Commission. So I support the appointment of Mr. Andrew Sullivan to serve as the school committee recommendation. This appointment will strengthen collaboration between the Building Advisory Committee and the Asset Management Commission, ensuring continued alignment of district facility priorities with the town's long-term capital planning efforts. So.
All right. I make a motion to approve. Mr. Sullivan?
Second.
Discussion on the motion? So this goes to the school committee and then the town council?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, make a motion to recommend Mr. Sullivan to the school committee.
Second.
Can I second those? Second.
All right, any further discussion?
I oppose.
All right, hearing done, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Congratulations.
Oh,
Congratulations.
well, I mean, that's just step one.
Okay. Next item is the 26-27 Building Advisory Committee meeting schedule. I have copies of the meeting schedule that I will pass out so everyone can take a look.
Here, I'll just pass around.
Thank you very much.
Do you guys need copies?
Thank you.
Just pass it. Thank you.
So these proposed meeting schedule, meeting dates were made after reviewing some key dates and timelines for the upcoming capital improvement projects. The internal working group is proposing having the BAC meeting schedule trend towards the last Wednesday of the month in order to better align with school committee meetings as well as submission deadlines. So the suggested meeting date and time would need to be slightly altered during holidays. But these are the dates that are being proposed.
So I'm looking, just so everyone's aware, it looks like August 27th is a Thursday. September 30th is a Wednesday. I don't know if people want to write this down. October 28th is a Wednesday. Let's see if we start a pattern. 18th is back to a Wednesday. So it might just be, then December because of break, Wednesday. Yeah, it looks like it's Wednesdays except for that September 30th date.
Do you mean the August date?
I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's okay.
August 27th.
Okay.
Was there a reason August was Thursday?
That may have been a typo, we can make it the 26th if we agree.
Do you want to check with Kenny? There might have been a reason. Or did you guys set it? I'm not sure who said it.
This came from Kenny.
Okay.
Is that the first day of school, maybe?
No.
No, we're not signing that.
Yeah.
Happy to hear that.
Yeah. It's odd that there's only one Thursday, because I know that we're Wednesday.
I think it's a typo.
I think so too.
We can double check on that.
Okay.
Okay.
So does this better align with like school committee meetings or?
So the last Wednesday, school committee meetings typically are the first and the third Tuesday of the month. So this would put this like in between that, so it's not like it gives us a little bit of lead time in case there's something coming out of building that needs to go to school committee. It gives us a little time to make the agenda work.
That makes sense.
And I think also because depending on how the calendar falls, sometimes what our experience was, we were behind.
We were
opposite,
behind, yeah,
just because of
right.
how the beginning of the month fell.
Right,
so.
okay.
Okay, so,
Can I, just
yeah,
one other observation. So, our meeting's tonight on the 3rd. I don't know what was planned for July, because we know that the school committee is not meeting in July, but we weren't ready to give you guys a pass on July yet. So, we don't have to figure it out here today, but we were hopeful that our cadence would kind of still hold through the summer-ish.
For the first Wednesday?
Or whatever, I think, this group could maybe, or there could be a poll that goes out, but I think we need a meeting with you guys
In July.
middle, or, early to middle of July, because we
Yeah.
just wanna, even though we don't have approvals coming through, we think that's probably too long of a span to go without you guys being up to date with kind of where we are in the process, both on the CIP work
Yep.
and on the, middle
Wilfred
school.
Brothers.
And I do think on the CIP, we plan on being ready for that, for an August meeting, correct?
So Sam, are you saying definitely one in July, but what about, is the August 27th one good enough? Or do you think there will have to be an early August one?
Where's that schedule?
Oh,
We might need one earlier in August, based on this card trick that we're gonna talk through our scheduling session tonight.
okay, so,
So, I would say definitely a July meeting.
So what I would do is, first, as far as July, and I wish this was for me, but it's not, July 1st and 8th, I would assume would be vacation time for people.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, if, a lot of people, so I think that could be a mistake. You may wanna go to the 15th if you're doing a Wednesday.
yeah,
And
I'm
then-
just concerned, Ralph, with, and we'd have to figure this out, Sam's trying to figure this out. So if we do like a mid to late July one,
Yeah.
and we already have a late August one,
So
but
what
then
I-
would we need
But
it?
I guess what I was thinking is, again, and please, that, being that is the case, we gotta, we don't know if August 27th is too late. We don't have a July meeting, and we don't know if there's a typo. So based on, and which is all okay, so based on that, we should just schedule a July meeting, and then defer action on this until the July meeting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right, cause we might be able to, maybe would move the August one, doesn't have to be as late as the 27th.
Or maybe
Maybe
adopt
earlier.
September 30th through June 9th. Then we can do that too, adopt September 30th to June 9th, and then
Yeah.
schedule the July one, and
And validate what August.
we could
would
talk,
be.
you can
Yeah.
let us know what
Yep.
date in
Yeah.
August works.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
That makes sense.
Sorry we're so needy.
it's okay.
Alright, so I make a motion to approve Building Advisory Committee dates from September 30th through June 9th, the meeting dates.
And then do we wanna schedule one for July at the same time, or no? Or do you wanna get back to us?
Why don't we, if you guys are flexible, maybe we can, in our next working group meeting, or the next one or two, we can kind of say, okay, this is when we think it would make sense. And again, understanding that first week's probably really hard, right? A lot of people are gonna disappear, so is it that second
Second
or
week's
third?
probably
So,
gonna be tough too.
Yeah.
why don't we say, as a TBD, July 15th or 22nd for the transparency purposes for everybody who's watching, so we can
Yeah.
have our bases covered, and then we can always take it up, right?
Yep.
If that's a,
Sure. But then we also are still trying to figure out if we're gonna need an earlier August one.
Yeah, and I think we won't know, I'd rather that be a more informed ask
yeah.
Okay.
for
Yeah.
you
So we
guys
can
for
just say a
August.
TBD in August,
Okay, yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
then
Alright, so
we'll-
let me take my motion back.
We need to make a motion,
Yeah.
I'll take my motion back. And I will make a motion to do, I'll just put July 15th, should we just say July 15th? Meeting July 15th. At 5:30. And approve the rest of the calendar as is.
Within August.
With that
TBD.
August?
No,
I think we
TBD.
wanna say, I wanna approve September 30th through June 9th, isn't that what we said?
No, well then we need a TBD for August.
Right, and we're gonna announce the August meeting, I thought, at
Sorry,
the
Wendy.
July, at the July meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so let's shape this into a coherent
Alright,
motion.
motion
Yeah.
to have accept the building advisory committee meeting schedule with a TBD on July 15th, or a July 15th meeting, TBD in August, and the rest of the schedule as is, September 30th through June 9th.
Get that, Wendy?
Mm-hmm.
You want me to repeat it? Because I probably can't.
No, I'm making notes to just follow my arrows, and I know which one comes first. So the July comes, and then August, and
July
then,
15th,
and then the rest
August
of the
TBD.
schedule as written.
Exactly.
All right, so a motion is on the table, do we have a second?
Second?
Okay, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Next item. Public comment. Next item, we will move to public comment. So,
Is there
I didn't sign
anyone,
up 'cause the
is there
doors-
anyone here for public comment?
is there anyone here for public comment? Okay.
Go ahead, you're up.
Just record your name and state it for the record.
Because the door was locked, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yep, it's signed in, yep.
Out front? Out front? No.
Yeah, it is.
Really?
So,
Yeah.
no,
Is that you wedged it?
no, I'm just not normally peeking through windows.
Okay. That's weird.
It was open when I walked.
Yeah, it must have gotten the door stopped. Okay.
Anyways, thank you for accommodating me. Robert Jones, 63 Pheasant Run, Saunderstown. Just a couple comments. At the macro level, it was disappointing at the 2 school committees ago when the adult list was sort of held up, tied. As a person who voted for the second bond in November 2024, I voted based on what was promised, what was sold to the voters. I understand things change. I was on the school committee once. I went through a bond process, not quite at this level, but I do think it's been on the school committee agenda twice about discussing, something about why the stage 2s didn't happen for multiple attempts, and something about litigation with vendors. I have no idea what that is, but I do think the public is owed an explanation. This is what we were promised. This is what it looks like you're going to end up with stage 3, because they're not the same. They're not even close in some areas. So I again hope you recommend to the full school committee some kind of something, a meeting, a list, a discussion about what was promised, what is going to be delivered, which leads to my macro point. I think it would do the public great if you figure out or recommend the school committee some way of having a dashboard of what's going on, how much is being spent or how much is budgeted, what's actually being spent in priority order. Because I don't think it's news to you that you're not going to be able to do everything on the list, your CIP list. So just tell us what the priorities are. The bond referendum said build a new middle school and then do other fixes. I highly recommend do not be slave to a number. Do not be a slave to 78 million. Because the worst thing is you're going to value engineer projects at 9 schools and all of them will have shortcomings. Like if you need to spend 85 million, spend 85 million. The voters, I'm sure, expect fields. I don't know why that's an adult. Other questions I hope you answer sooner than later or make it clear to the public. Is it an emergency shelter or not? Because if it is, I think there's some smart things you need to do that RIDE probably doesn't think is part of an education building. You probably need a bigger gym. You probably need a bigger generator. Like, those are things that will be important, and it won't be important until it is important. And so, yes, maybe that adds a little bit of cost. Maybe you can get some extra educational value out of it too. But, I mean, is it or not an emergency? If it is, build it with that in mind. Same thing, sewers or septic. Like, make a decision. Because these things, to me, hold up getting this project done. But for God's sakes, that And whatever you need to do at Davis Middle for whatever is considered equity, don't cheap out. I mean, value engineer smart, but value engineer to what makes sense, not to a number. Because I'll say it again, unless people on here want to say otherwise, you're not going to get everything done at the elementary schools. And in fact, I seriously think 5 elementary schools are probably the long-term wrong answer. Whether that is or not is a discussion that I think future school committees with the town council and other leaders probably need to have with the community. But don't go adding, again, Forest Park, last I saw FCI was 72. That's technically unrepairable. So if you're going to eventually have to put money in a second bond, which I think is inevitable, then don't cheap out on the first bond. Like, please build those 2 facilities, the new Wickford Middle and Davisville, so they are good for a long time. You're fixing the roof high school. And do what you can in priority order. But whatever else you do, please give something to the public, because I keep hearing, oh, watch the meetings, do all this. I read the minutes, which have like 50 million things from the vendors, and I get it, but the public needs one thing. Like, what is our 141 million or whatever it is going to be spent on? What's the order? And how are we doing? Because that doesn't really come clear from what you're doing now. And it's super confusing with the school committee. Like, when they do vote on the adults, like, for God's sakes, please tell me you're going to put fields in. And some other smart things with that school. And the same at Davisville Middle. Don't cheap out on the educational stuff just because you're trying to maybe get a 5th, security vestibule at one of the elementary schools. You're going to have to come back to those anyways. Anyways, I'll get off my soapbox. Thank you for the work you do, but I hope you take those thoughts into consideration.
Thank you. Is there any other comment this evening? All right. Next item is Owner's Project Manager Update, CIP, and WMS.
Great, and Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I think what we're gonna do is we'll go through our OPM report, and then we'll go through the stage 3 DD presentation, all kind of let the 2 flow into each other, and then that'll inform kind of the votes that you have later on. But that'll encompass all of the kind of the OPM and the AE updates if that works for the group. So with that, I will turn it over to Erica and she'll lead us through the OPM update.
Thank you, Sam. So for the OPM update, we did want to highlight first the approvals that we will be seeking this evening from this committee. So the first regarding capital improvements, that is the elementary school stabilization stage 3 design development submission to RIDE, which we will be presenting on, as Sam mentioned. We are also seeking the amendment to Peregrine's contract for commissioning agent services for the high school roof. That work is already underway with the contractor on board. For Wickford Middle School, we will be seeking stage 3 design development submission approval to RIDE. And then we have 2 additional services from Perkins Eastman. One is for an irrigation consultant, and one is for a historic consultant. And we will get to those later, but wanted to at least bring it to the committee's attention before we dive in. And I'll turn it over to Matt to give an update just on the capital improvement projects.
Thank you, Erica. So we'll start with the high school roof, which is fast approaching. So since our update last month, we now have an fully executed GC contract with Martone Construction. Even prior to this contract, they've been working on the submittal process, been going pretty smoothly. Ed's been great at getting quick responses out. We have weekly OACs, Wednesday afternoons.
Owner, architect, contractor meetings.
Thank you. Let's do that a few times. Bridget's been sitting in. We'll bring in the new facilities director, but those are now every Wednesday afternoon from now until the project completion. Next week, we are planning on having a pre-construction meeting where we'll have all the subs out. They'll get familiar with the site, and then Friday, the 19th, is the first day when school is over with, and they'll start mobilizing, they'll start installing their fencing. And then that Monday, they're planning on doing the first crane pick. So we've been working with Bridget, there's some dance recitals going on over the weekend, and that Monday, we've confirmed that they'll be able to coexist, so no issues there. So any questions on the high school roof before we move on? For the elementary schools, we did receive pricing since our last meeting from Alana for the DD docs, and the DD drawing, and they were favorable. Those updated cost estimates are included in the capital budget, which we'll review a little bit later. We did vet these. We had a meeting with Alana. We made sure that everything was captured, so we do believe that those savings are pretty real with everything that's been provided to date. So we're targeting a DD submission to RIDE early July. We had a meeting here a few weeks ago with Sam, Bridget, and the team, and just kind of mapped out all of our submissions, what's needed to hit those milestones. And for that DD submission, we pretty much have that package for the elementary schools compiled already. The one thing it's missing is just a commissioning agent review of the drawings. This is a RIDE requirement, so we can't submit without it, but that package is compiled. We do have an RFQ out with responses due Monday, this coming Monday, the 8th. And once we have the agent on, we'll have them review do their commissioning review, and then we can just slip that into the DD submission. So we're seeking the approval of that submission today from the building committee, and then on the 16th will be the school committee approval. Once we have those approvals, we will be hoping to set up a pre-submission meeting with RIDE, and then targeting that submission early July.
Is there one commissioning agent for all the elementary schools? Is that the plan?
Yes, so the RFQ that went out will cover the scope for the 6 elementary schools and then Davisville Middle School, which was pretty minor.
Are you going to carry on that commissioning agent through the next few years? Is the contract going to be for construction as well, is my question.
That would be the goal, Steve, and,
Okay.
and we did an RFQ, so we could almost do it on a kind of a task order basis. Because as these things go through the RIDE approval process, we're still trying to navigate exactly what those services will be for the CX. If you recall, we went out for everything early. We pulled back and said, let's just do middle school because that was a much more defined scope. Now we're going out for the elementaries and VMS, and we think it'll be much more pragmatic to kind of go school by school and say, okay, here's the scope that we need for this. Let's target what that will be. We'll go through an evaluation, bring that back to this group each time we kind of get that update, as opposed to having the market try to speculate on what all those services need to be over the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I understand the challenge. Yeah, I appreciate the way you're doing it.
Yeah.
I'd just rather not have someone review the drawings that won't be on for construction.
Oh, yeah.
Because then it's
would be
just checking a
continuous.
box.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure, it would be continuous
Perfect.
across the entire the duration of the work.
And I think to date, we've only had one commissioning agent respond, who we've also worked with in the past, and Bridget's been a help submitting all the comment responses. Any other questions on elementary school? Just got a quick update for Davisville Middle. For Davisville Middle School, DBBW is targeting this Friday to complete their 100% DD drawings. And then based off our schedule overview meeting, we are targeting a early to mid-August submission to RIDE for that. And then our SD submission was submitted, I believe, late April, early May, and as RIDE, as working with RIDE has been just on this, it's been hard to get responses, but we followed up earlier this week, and they're expecting to provide comments early next week, so that is moving along. And then I think the only thing for CIP is the budget. So Mike, I don't know if you want to provide the good news on that front.
Yeah, we'll go into a little more detail, the elementaries only when we go through the presentation, but the numbers reflected here are reflected across all CIP projects with North Kensington High School roof. Caveat being that the contract amount was below that number, but at the time, we decided as a group to roll those savings into owner contingency at this time because we weren't sure how or what we might want to spend those funds on. So that's why you see a 7.4 million, even though the contract price was lower than that. And then DMS, we still only have our schematic design pricing at 21 million. And we're expecting those numbers to fluctuate quite a bit. Since the SD submission, we've done a lot of work with staff and district leadership to work on really alternates around the steam wing and what's part of the base bid, what's part of base alternates. So we expect that number to go up as we go into the DD bid process, but we'll know that after DDVW finishes their drawings, gets them out to Alana. So within the next few weeks, we should have a better sense of where DMS is. And then, as Matt had noted, we did get back DD pricing on the elementary stabilization projects. And you can see just in the subtotal line that as of today, we're just under $7 million in the positive for where we think we are based on having taken the roof adjustments that we talked about a few months ago, and having much more detailed drawings on the mechanical scopes so that Alana could put that our estimates together. So we think there's potential savings there that could be reinvested as the district kind of sees fit across all projects, its portfolio. But it's just under $7 million as of today.
Any questions on the CIP work? And again, we'll come back on the DD's presentation, which will go in a little bit more detail specifically on the elementary schools.
What was the approved budget in the first column, or the second column there, was that based on Alana X estimate as well? Can you remind me?
Yeah, so that was the stage 2
Yeah.
submission back in September. If you recall, very conceptual plans due to how late DBVW came on. So but those were estimated by Alana at that point. So I think what we're seeing is a little bit of, now there's a lot more clarity in the plans. It's to the benefit or to the good so far from a budget standpoint. I think the DMS information is what's missing in here, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
we're not at DD yet. So I think that's really gonna tell a story once we get those numbers in, and we'll have a better understanding of what the whole CIP stack looks like. And then we'll be, better informed at least about where we are macro look across the capital improvement work throughout, for all the buildings.
And the reductions in the elementary schools, was that driven by, I know the roof was a big impact, but was there any other cost drivers? Was a reduction in design contingency, or what's driving just
Ed, I don't know if you wanna weigh in.
Yes, and mostly mechanical.
mechanical as well?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It was very high level when we had the schematic set put together, and this is much more detailed at this level.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think now also a review meeting with RIDE, understanding kind of where their prioritization is as we move from SD to DD, right? We were able to get that feedback loop after stage 2 as we're advancing into stage 3. So I think it's just better data as we go, right? Which is expected as we kind of move through this process.
And we're escalating the projects, I'm assuming the answer is yes, escalating for 2027, 2028 summer work.
Correct, yep.
I'd ask.
Yeah, no, good, all good questions.
So it's still too early to say as to what you would do if you actually would realize a 7 million.
Right,
Okay.
yeah,
We have options for you to
yeah.
think about.
Yeah, I think the opportunities are probably more scope at DMS, right? And do you wanna pivot those funds to other needs, whether that's at the middle school or somewhere else? So, and again, that's really for this group to kind of decide as we move through that process. And I think the other thing too is until we bid, these numbers are still just estimates. So, not to overqualify every time we talk about it, but that's still the uncertainty of kind of how, the design and the pricing process works.
Okay, thank you. Anything further, questions for Olivia?
Yeah, well, now we'll go into Whitford.
Oh, there you go,
Sorry.
thank you, yes,
just-
yes. Any questions on the CIP?
Yeah.
Any further? Okay, go ahead.
Thanks, Rob. So just a quick update on Whitford Middle School before we get into the presentation. So, in terms of RIDE Stage 3 coordination, we did receive our schematic design approval from RIDE on May 15th, so a significant milestone for the project. We're here before you tonight, obviously, for the design development submission, which we're targeting this month to submit to RIDE after we meet with school committee, and we also are required to have a pre-submission meeting with RIDE too. In the past, we've received comments kind of ahead of submitting too, right following that pre-submission meeting, so the group will work through that if we receive comments before we submit too. Design coordination, so I think one item to update this group on is that we did meet as a team with Perkins Eastman and Peregrine to review the Northeast CHIP scorecard. From that meeting, we were able to determine and identify another 6.5 points that will help the overall NE CHIPS score. So right now, we're hovering at around 171 points. So trending in a positive direction. Those were what we reviewed were items that were already carried more or less in the project and just weren't realized in the scorecard. Regarding environmental updates, so we did go through the RIDEM public notification process, and a meeting was held on May 11th here in this room. We also had a public comment period that closed on May 21st as a part of that overall process, and we are waiting on a report from PAR to be finalized. So continuing that work in the background as well. There's been ongoing site investigation work taking place at Whitford Middle School, so I want to thank again Bridget and Principal Flanagan for the work that you've done to help us coordinate the on-site activities, especially during the school year. From that, we did have an evaluation report issued by PAR, and that was to understand whether or not we could reuse the existing OWTS system. From that report, it was determined that the existing system is functionally adequate and may continue to serve the new Whitford Middle School effectively with repairs and replacements of items noted in the report. And that is more or less verbatim from PAR's report. So I think, again, positive overall news that with some of the repairs and replacement, we can continue using the system, and that will just help overall project costs.
Erica,
Yeah.
can I ask a quick question about
Yeah.
that? Was there an amount of years that we can continue using it for, like a limit?
I would have to go back to the report. I can't recall off the top of my head if there was a number of years.
Cause I remember we had some discussions where it was like, we think this, usually gets X amount of years, like let's say 20 years, and we think we might be at 15, so we're good for now, but then it was like right at the end, so I'm just wondering if that was accurate.
Yeah, we can listen to that. If I recall, I think the existing system too is much larger than what would be needed at the new Whitford Middle School, so it's overbuilt, so I think that's also helps with the just general reuse. But we can reread the report and see if there was a timeline.
Okay, thank you.
And there's a follow-up now that will be submitted to RIDEM for their review and a conversation around the findings. So while I would say, kind of good, a healthy scorecard on it coming out of their review, RIDEM still has to take a look at that and say, okay, is this consistent with what we would expect for the switch over to a different building, the loads that would be going into that. Again, that was designed, I think, for upwards of 600 students when it was built. We know this is a smaller population now in the building. And so all those things, I think, contribute to that potential positive outlook, but RIDEM also has to weigh in on that as well.
So for the public, but also for me, because I'm still trying to figure this out, and given that it was a question during public comment, obviously this still has to be looked into by RIDEM and then brought back for the report, but at what point do we have to I know we've talked about this ad nauseum, at what point do we have to make that septic versus sewer decision?
Yeah, so I would say we've already made the decision going back that assuming that the system was usable, that the existing system was going to be the plan A for treating sanitary sewer coming out of the building.
So provided Rydam
Right.
kind of
What-
agrees with that.
What you will see in the alternates list, it's not ranked necessarily right now, but we did have Shawmut and Parr provide, we had a meeting with the town engineering team to talk through kind of, okay, which direction would you like to go if in fact there is the opportunity for sewer in the future? Understandably, the town team said, we can't tell you definitively you should go to Phillips or you should go, up to Route 1. So what we have in the estimate, or what we have as an alternate right now, is a plan that would allow for key areas on the site to have a pre-installed kind of raceway, for lack of a better term, so that if and when there is the opportunity to tie into sewer, we're at least not coming back in and pulling up asphalt parking, curbs, kind of major site infrastructure. So those Park prepared a plan for those crossing areas to go either direction, and that's shown as an alternate in the plan right now. So as opposed to saying, let's build a lateral all the way to Phillips, or let's build a lateral all the way to Tower Hill, but not knowing which way it would have to go, they picked those strategic locations on that path and said, okay, let's install an empty pipe. So then in the future, if you had to do it, at least that pipe is kind of protecting what's above it, and you don't have to dig.
And there was no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. There was no opinion as like which route would be more likely?
The town team wasn't.
They're not gonna.
Yeah, they wasn't gonna pick, and I don't blame them, like, tell me what happens, tell me what the town decides in 3 years for larger capital improvements, it's just so hard to tell.
Yeah,
So
no, I
that's why
get
we
it. I
said,
mean,
let's take this kind of abbreviated solution that gives you flexibility both ways, and at least builds in that small level of infrastructure improvement, that
Yeah.
facilitates the extension later. It's still
Probably
gonna be
not worth
disruptive.
it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Are we gonna see a cost for that ad alternate for those?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
preemptive and-
it's in the presentation
Okay,
on
that's-
this stage.
So today.
DD, yeah.
Because I was gonna say that's new and good information,
Yeah,
that
yep.
if you've got that,
Right,
that plan.
right.
So,
And it's an all, so it's not currently in the budget, but I think it's one that, all things being equal, you would wanna try to get that in too, right? There's a lot of competing interests for the scarce capital dollars, but that's another one that's probably worthwhile. The alternative is, you make a decision in however many years, and there's some disruption to the site. That's also, but not the end of the world. You just hate to build some of this, especially some of those site improvements, and then have to tear them up at a later date, but not unheard of, right?
I think a lot depends on the answer to Megan's question about the report telling us what the life expectancy is of
Right.
the existing systems.
Yeah.
It's a great question.
Right.
We need to know.
So moving back down, building code, we have submitted 2 variance requests, for windborne debris, glazing, and the photovoltaic readiness of the building. Those are now under consideration by the Building Code of Appeals, and the meeting is actually tonight, so, we do have a team member there, that meeting started at 4:30. The variances, are, I think, at least in terms of the windborne debris, we feel that the building itself is kind of right on that line as to where that requirement would be. And so that is why we're pursuing it. And then the PV or solar readiness of the building is a part of the new energy code requirement that new construction is required to have it. Well, we're not saying that the building won't have solar in the future. The building will be built to have the infrastructure to support it. What we're saying is that this will allow the town, the school district to find other funding sources or other means to either go out for RFP and bring the solar on that way as opposed to being in that base project.
Yeah, and PV ready is already a baseline requirement, so that's in the current scope as it stands today. So that allows for future opportunity with photovoltaics to be built, whether that's through a third-party agreement that you look at all your rooftops, and we've talked about this, I think, extensively in this group, but the waiver is to not put the PV actually on the building. And we don't know what the, literally, we might have updates soon, because that meeting might be over right now. They were holding that at 4:30 this afternoon.
And then, we are going through the entitlements process too, so the major land development process. The team has already held its second technical review committee meeting on the 13th. We are going before the Conservation Commission on June 11th. There will be a Planning Commission site visit, scheduled for June 15th, at 8:15 in the morning. That's a public meeting, requirement of the overall process where the Planning Commission will be on site to see the exterior of the building. And then we are seeking preliminary and master plan approval on June 16th, which we do acknowledge there's a conflict that evening too with school committee, so we will be dividing and conquering for that approval process.
Two very important meetings.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's a morning meeting on the 15th?
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, thanks.
And it's a pretty passive walk, you know, like I think they had to do it because it's a requirement of their, what the planning commission needs to do. But, and it is a public meeting, it will be advertised as, you know, usually lightly attended, but, you know, who knows?
And we've worked, just to make sure it occurs after, I think, student drop off, so that is why it's scheduled a little bit later than what they typically do too. Just we know mornings and afternoons can be hectic at school, so. And then, just as an update as well, the Coastal Resource Management Freshwater Wetlands application, has actually been submitted to the state, so, that is under review right now by the state. With regards to construction coordination, we have met as a team. We did, a similar, scheduling exercise with Shawmut and the design team and Peregrine to look globally at the overall project schedule, especially looking at any type of enabling work or early packages that we would need to consider as the project moves forward. That schedule that you'll see in the upcoming presentation is reflective of that input. What we did note, kind of start to target is the work that will take place this summer. One of which we're looking at a temporary sanitary bypass for the gym and nurse's office. So there are actually septic tanks out that tie into those two specific areas on the building. And so we'll need to be able to make a bypass in order to begin the construction work. So that is something that we'll look to do this summer. And we're already in the process of meeting with RIDEM to schedule a pre-application meeting to discuss that. We also may look at doing some additional testing and exploratory work this summer too on the building while students are not inside. We have a full asbestos report and cost estimate, but if there is an opportunity, say while we have an excavator on site, we want to pull back some of the dirt for the foundation and test anything that we can't see, that might be an opportunity that we may take. So all things that we're considering and looking at as we move forward. Just on the next page, you'll see just a quick update on the budget, and I'll let Sam speak to this kind of more specifically as we get to the other presentation, but I did just want to highlight when we're looking at the two ad services to the Perkins Eastman contract, those total $19,800. What we've done here, you can see, is we're taking that increase out of owner's soft cost contingency. So in a traditional setting, you would see no impact to the overall project budget, but because we have two different cost estimates that we're going against, it isn't quite apples to apples as it would typically be when we locked in our total project
Yeah,
budget.
because this reflects the updates from the DD estimate as well in this, which again, we'll talk about during the presentation a little bit more detail.
And then down below the overall budget, you can start to see the soft cost contingency tracker. And so on a monthly basis, as we move forward, that is how we'll be updating this committee on services that we're seeking approval for or have been approved. And you'll see this too as a hard cost contingency tracker as well, so that we're keeping you informed and up to date. We do have a list of invoices for payment, but I know that that is also a voting item on the agenda, so happy to table that until we get to that item.
Any further questions at all regarding the Wickford presentation?
I just have a general question. Is Wickford Middle School used at all during the summer for anything? I know not the camps, but do we use it for anything?
The building?
The building itself or the grounds?
No.
Not typically, right?
Not typically. Sometimes rec uses it for the kind of day camp. If it's a rainy day, they come in.
We have rentals.
It's very,
Yeah.
it's very.
This year we have a lot of rentals, cause
Really?
because we had to move from the high school
Oh,
over.
okay.
The gym rentals, yeah.
Volleyball, do they set up any,
They-
they rented outside in the
Out-
summer?
outside, we see that a couple of
Outside
times.
and inside.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's all right.
But that's just an off year because of the high school, right? It's not usually that bad, or that
Just the camps,
busy.
right?
Yeah, and it's just an inclement weather, the camps that use it.
Right.
There's some, I mean, the outside, they use the fields for a couple of different organizations for camps.
Okay, thank you.
Volleyball camps and that kind of thing,
Okay, so, any other questions at all? All right, so having heard, the presentation from our, Peregrine group this evening, do we have a motion for the ride,
Well, we're-
sorry,
Sorry, Robert. Now we'll do the presentation on the two submissions,
got it,
if that makes sense.
sorry.
So number 7?
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of a combined, the 6 and 7 are happening simultaneously.
Okay, so we wanna take those together?
Yeah, so we're gonna make the presentation on the DD submissions
Okay.
for both the middle school and the elementary stabilization projects. Then your vote can happen whenever your vote happens.
Got it.
This will be kind of the information that will inform that discussion. So if that's okay, we'll jump into that, and we're gonna have kind of a tandem team happening, so we're gonna start out with Mark McCarthy from Perkins Eastman, who will kick off the Wickford Middle School discussion. Mark and I will work together on that, and then we'll pivot to the elementary schools, and that'll be both Ed and Mike doing that, so you're gonna have kind of a rotating team of folks up here, so we'll have Mark kick it off.
Hey, everyone. So I will, I think a lot of this Erica had just gone over, right? We completed design development April 17th. We have gone through our cost estimates and reconciliation, which we'll present to you this evening. As we just talked about with the OWTS system, investigation was completed and favorable results there. The design development submission is targeted for middle of this month. And then finally, our 60% construction documents will be completed in the middle of August. In terms of the entitlement updates, the RIDE Stage 3 design, schematic design was approved. That was a big one for us. And this is actually, well, you had the environmental site investigation, as Erica talked about, on May 11th. That's closed now. There's very few public comments. Actually, I believe there was 2, none actually to do with the topic that we were presenting on. And then what's happening as we speak with the Planning Commission appeals for the windborne debris, which I just want to make a slight clarification about that. It's not that we're asking for total relief there. We're still doing windborne debris at some of the major glass areas and entry, I think, in the cafeteria, as well as there is intrusion detection at the glazing at the first floor. So we're looking for some partial relief. Just it's a big cost for the windborne debris at some of the classroom and less vulnerable areas of the building. And then, And then there'll be that's happening right now, and then we have a future planning meeting in the middle of June. And as we talked about those, the historic the MOA is currently under review, and the site visit will be scheduled. That's for the historic people to come through the existing building and give us a report on what their findings are, to document the building. We have an obligation then to build that into the future. There's lots of different ways we can do that, whether that's actually keeping any artifacts or doing it with a plaque or some other kind of visual recognition of the former building. Next slide. We did complete our user group meeting, so those were very successful. Just recently had a meeting with the Media Center, which I'll talk a little bit about, but all of these are complete now, and no issues there. Those are very, I think they were successful in terms of meeting everyone's needs and going over the planning. So I think we've touched on a bit of this, but this will be part of our Stage 3 design development submission to RIDE. Obviously, we're here this evening looking for project approvals from the BAC, which will then go to the school committee. The submission will include the project manual and drawings, as are specs and drawings at the DD level. We'll talk a little bit on next couple of slides about where we are with CHIPS. We'll talk also as well about cost estimating. We will also, part of that submission is our compliance on prevailing wage, our anticipated MBE and WBE participation, reviews by the commission. We talked about the commissioning agent, the owner's project manager, a report on disabilities, and historic preservation. And we will have our hazardous material and abatement studies, which that will really is about what our plans are for remediation. There's a cost-benefit energy analysis, which is part of that. Where RIDE's really looking, they're interested not just in our day one, our upfront costs, but also operating costs. So they review that as well. And then, as Erica mentioned, site investigation reports. So no changes to the site from when we've met previously. I think the one thing that came up that might be a recent development is after meeting with first responders and meeting with the school, we had originally 2 gates that were, I'll walk over to the screen. They were planned to have a gate here and here during the school hours to block the road for access from anyone from the school to the fields. Actually, it wasn't so much a cost thing. I think in meeting with fire department and I think with the school as well, to maintain those gates actually is problematic. And given the geometry, they didn't really feel like this was a case where anybody would there wouldn't be much traffic there. It wouldn't be moving fast. So it felt like in the end, those gates were really not necessary. Next slide. So I'll just go through the plans. There's no real change to that. I'll just talk a little bit because we don't maybe get to talk in these meetings so much about some of the design elements, but one of the things that we most recently talked about is with the Media Center. And I'll just walk over. So this is the Media Center. So in a middle school program, the Media Center includes a tech room and a robotics room. This was a little bit different configuration. It actually had, I think we had another small group. RIDE commented on that. They wanted to see more flexibility here in meeting with the users. Actually, both these programs would access the tech, which was a little bit different configuration where that sort of computer lab, the sort of design lab. So it's a very middle school kind of centric idea about what the Media Center is, and that went really well. So it wasn't a change in the overall area, but a better configuration of those spaces. So that's the kind of things that the user group meetings really are fruitful for us. And then as we go up through the building, as there's a double height space at the lobby, and then we have, it goes more or less by grade. So sixth grade at the second floor, and then the next seventh and eighth grade are all on the top floor. Next slide. This is the, I know it's impossible to read, but maybe you have it in front of you. As Erica was talking about, we're currently tracked at 171.5 points. Rides recommendation, it's not a hard rule, but it's a recommendation, would be 180. We do have things in the maybe category. The reason they're in the maybe category is they have costs associated with them. We'll talk about a couple of those sort of larger ones that are on our alternate. But I feel like, I think the team feels like we're in a pretty good spot being at 171. We'd like to be at 180, but I don't think it's something that's going to keep the project from moving forward if we stay in the 170s and we don't get quite to 180. Again, the schedule, I think we've talked about that, where we're at. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I'll just touch on this. I think Erica alluded to it in her update. So we did have a pretty intensive scheduling meeting about a month ago with the Shawmut team, the Perkins Eastman team, and Peregrine, really to kind of take these broad strokes of, you know, starting construction on this date, finishing construction on this date, starting the site work on this date, and really kind of getting down into the weeds about how do we get from these next major design milestones, which are going to be, you know, this is one of them. There'll be another one at the end of the summer when we'll come back for 60%. And then from 60%, we will be racing to the 100% documents. And that is all so that Gordon and his team at Shawmut are able to get that those packages out on the street and really start to price, so that we can come back to this group with what we call the GMP, the Guaranteed Maximum Price piece of the contract. In addition to that work, in order to ensure that we are hopefully gaining from a little bit of work that can happen at the end of this calendar year, we are teeing up a series of suggested enabling packages that would allow that work to be somewhat accelerated in the design process by the design team. And we've gone through some details on what those packages will look like, but it would typically involve earthwork, some of the underground utilities, structural steel, concrete, and all those things are stuff that Shawmut can be putting out on the street, getting pricing on. So with that hope for potential of kind of putting a fence up around the property on or about the 1st of November, and really getting some of that work underway so that we're kind of beating those winter months and really setting ourselves up for work that will happen over the winter. Invariably, you're doing some kind of work in the winter months that you prefer not to, and you're paying a little bit more money for that. But in order to make sure that we can deliver in that late spring, beginning of summer of 2028 to turn the building over, which is that first big step, we believe that we're going to have to do that. We're going to talk through with this group kind of the risk reward of that, because you will not have all of your packages bought out at that point. We'll have another cost estimate under our belt, so we'll be that much more refined. So there's going to be some discussion with this, you know, before we even get to this group, around the efficacy of doing that early release work. And then the understanding that you won't have all your other prices on all your other packages at that point. So you're evaluating schedule, you're evaluating a little bit of uncertainty, but even better, more informed. I would say on just about every package that we do, when there's a construction manager on board, we typically see a series of enabling packages that go out. Again, because it just kind of facilitates and helps ensure that we're getting to those scheduled dates. So that'll be part of future meeting discussions. And I think what we'd like to do is maybe at one of the summer meetings, whichever one we end up having, we can just talk through that just conceptually in a little bit more detail, so that the Building Advisory Committee can really kind of understand the value proposition that's coming with that. So that way, when we do bring those forward, you guys have a better understanding of kind of how that process will work and what the timing, the major milestones are to get to that date. But I would just say that in general, that session really helped us to hone in on when we think we're going to have all these major events, and again, really get into those details. We did the same with the CIP. So those two schedules, while they are different, we're really starting to see that, you know, by I'd say Q1 of 2027, you're gonna have a really firm understanding on what your total cost is on the middle school and what all your total costs are on all your CIP work. So really kind of a major kind of stepping stone towards, okay, now we know the lay of the land. Now we know that we were over, we were under, you know, where did things land in the bidding process, and then kind of help inform how you guys evaluate some of these other key decision-making things that you have to go through, so. We did hand out a copy, I know it's really small in the PowerPoint. We handed out a slightly less small version that you have on in front of you, 11 by 17. But it was also in the electronic package that you guys received for the schedule package. So. All right, so let's go to the next slide. All right.
I have a quick question on the
Yeah,
schedule.
please.
So, what's the timeline for the approval of RIDE for the DDs that we're gonna recommend potentially tonight? Like, when do we get that approval, and how does it impact? I'm just trying to think of snags we could hit in the
Yep.
next 3 to 6 months before we hit the construction phase.
Yeah. I'll tell you what we anticipated.
That's a start.
I can't guarantee. So, you know, we're hoping that that package is going to be approved through RIDE by middle of July.
Okay. That's a pretty good turnaround.
Yeah. Now, summer, people, you know, all
Yeah.
those kind of things that happen. But I think, and we'll also have the pre-submission meeting in the month of June.
Okay.
And the pre-submission meeting really, I think, is where we start, we hear the things that we know are gonna be the issues that we wanna make sure are either resolved or are resolved as you move into 60%. It doesn't mean you won't get a batch of comments back when they do finally finish their review process. But the hope is that's really informing this set, cause then we only have one more check with
Yeah.
them, which is at that 60% review.
Okay. So our plan will be to keep moving with the design.
Yep.
In parallel.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the assumption, and I
Yeah.
think we've shared that with everybody, you know, pencils aren't going down at each of these stop points. Cause otherwise then you're definitely pushing into a spring start versus you know, a hoped-for fall start.
And one other question on the schedule, you mentioned the enabling activities such as site work. Have you identified any other like long lead, switchgear or anything like that we might need to release in this calendar?
Yeah,
before the
I mean,
GMP?
Gordon, I don't know if you wanna talk about some of the elements that you guys know are common in
Yeah, I
every
would say,
project.
switchgear definitely, generator would be another one. And then really steel is been pushing, so we wanna try to get that steel package
Yeah.
solidified. But Sam had mentioned, and typically we go, once you go with the site work, you get the concrete, and all of that will be mapped out once we really hone in on pricing and schedule. It's all to drive the schedule. Because the lead times on some of that stuff is really, it could hurt us. So if we get out in front of it, it's nice to have your power when you need your power, so, and that's really critical.
Yeah, and with a roughly 18-month end-to-end, you know, ish, that if it's 52 weeks on that
Exactly.
switchgear and that generator, you gotta be making all those submittals now, right? And that's from approval, that's not from, you know,
Instead of having
the
to go,
start.
yeah.
Yeah, so, we certainly all understand that. We also wanna make sure that we're not doing 20 early release packages.
Yeah, that's-
Right, so
that's
we're
what we
trying to
always
find
wanna
that
avoid, of
balance.
course,
Gordon
yeah.
will ask for all of them.
Yeah, of course.
Perkins Eastman doesn't want, you know, like, so we're trying to find that middle ground where it's
Yeah.
effective, but also we're not, cause each of those is gonna come before this group, or they'll come in batches, right? So, and they'll be kind of either a phase one GMP that's got a batch of those, and then the full GMP will come after, or it'll be a series of, requests for authorization for each package. We haven't figured out exactly how those will get paired, but.
Yeah, I know it's not an agenda item today, but it sounds like we're thinking about it the right way, so I appreciate it.
And if anybody wants to get in the weeds on schedule, I am happy to sit down and we can do a whole session on that, whether it's with the full committee or if it's a small subset, so we don't hit quorum, we're happy to kind of go through line by line all of our assumptions. Because we know that things are gonna come and hit us that are gonna knock us out of alignment. We're starting to see some of those things behind us, but we still have a lot of milestones to kind of get through, especially in the, you know, planning, estimates, approval processes, you know, all those things have to kind of line up almost perfectly to get us between now and say a November, hope for a November start.
I did notice you have, site mobilization and then the building's watertight a year later, nothing in between.
Yes,
I'm just chuckling.
very general.
Makes sense.
There are several lines collapsed on the.
I'm just making,
I can only fit so much on the Olympus.
Yeah.
Any more questions on schedule? Great, so, we're gonna give you a macro on the budget, and again, you saw it in the OPM report. This one's a little bit more collapsed, but really with the focus up top on the hard costs, because that's really gonna drive how this budget works. But what you'll see up in hard costs, previously approved budget is over on the left. That is the result of the SD approval process. So that first column after stage 2, addendum number 4. We do have these adjustments that Erica talked about. I think those are less important for this DD approval process, but we will talk about those change orders later. But if we go to current budget, what you'll see up top is under the construction cost, and again, we'll talk about the estimates that we have in the following pages. But that top line construction cost, in addition to the escalation number, which is the 605,966, is the total of Shawmut's updated estimate that just came in a couple weeks ago. So just to remind everybody how this process works, Shawmut and Alana received the plans about 6 weeks ago. They each did their own parallel process. We came back a week ago, and we knew we were under a pretty tight time constraint because of the last school committee meetings in 2 weeks. We knew we had this meeting this week, so this was a pretty quick turn on this process. So we met last week. We did a full reconciliation between the Shawmut estimating team and the Alana estimating team. That is always the step that we take to make sure that we're talking apples to apples. I think we were within about 2 to 3% of each other when we looked at the total bottom line, which for us is, that tells us that the estimators are all looking at the same stuff. Some debates internally up and down about, you had this for HVAC, we had that for HVAC, but it really allows the two teams to kind of get as tight as possible. All the sub-consultants and the consulting team also weigh in on that, so your mechanical engineers, your civil engineers, your structural engineers all looked at each of the estimates to make sure that they felt like that they were representing what was in those documents. So all in, when we look at those numbers and then we think about that $72.5 million cap that was established back at stage 2, we are still high, not surprising, but we are trending down, so with our overage. So you'll see in the yellow there, we pegged as a target $750,000 of value engineering that we needed to implement at this DD set in order to get us closer to budget. That's a little bit of a moving target, because as you can see down below, we're about $100K lower than what our total project budget is. But we want to put in VE items that we think are going to be, negligible to operations or program. That is job 1. But also some things that maybe if they weren't in the project, you wouldn't know about it. And I think there's some common tools that both the design team and the estimating and the CM team have for that. But 750 was that target. And again, then all the information just kind of flows down from there. So contingency stayed relatively static. That's the owner construction contingency, which is at the bottom of that bucket. And that gets us to about that $62.56 million all-in hard cost number. If we go to the next page, because this is really where the information gets a little bit more detailed, what you see here is Shawmut's, and again, typically, even though we do the reconciliation, we defer to the CM's estimate because they are the ones that are going to be building it. Rarely have we, say, utilized the third-party estimators going forward in this process because it's just, you're getting that much more information out of Shawmut. But what you have here is both a comparison between the schematic estimate that was done and then the design development estimate that is the one in front of us. On the left, you have all your direct project costs, so that's all your trade costs in that left box, and then on the right, when you take all those trade costs and then you apply all your typical markup structure, which includes design and estimating contingency. Just as a reminder, we talked about this last time. That is for things that aren't in the plans yet, but will be likely by the time we get to 100% doc. So that is I would say an informed WAG, it's an industry kind of standard about how much you put against that. I think we're still holding, can't remember if it's 3% or 5%. I think it's actually 3%. I don't know if that's accurate on there. You have construction contingency, so that is what Shawmut will bring into the GMP ultimately whenever we get to that final number. That is their cushion in their project cost. If you don't use that construction contingency, it doesn't get billed and it kind of gets returned to the owner. But it is there to cover unforeseen conditions, missed buyout, not unforeseen conditions, but missed buyout and any items that maybe aren't picked up when they go through that bidding process. Then we have a series of allowances, winter conditions. Again, we don't know what we're gonna encounter, but we know typical projects that span over a winter or two, like this one will, are gonna have some, utilization of those allowances. Again, those are reviewed by the team on a case-by-case basis and then reconciled as we go through the budget. Builder's risk is the insurance that the contractor will carry for the delivery of the project. General conditions are the people. Permits and fees are 0 on this, as we talked about at the previous meetings. And I believe we have concurrence that the town is gonna waive any of the permitting fees. There will still be state fees, especially for the Governor's Commission on Disabilities. Those are covered in the project budget. But as far as local permits are considered, those are not included. Trade permits, so the MEP going to do their trade permit, that's built into the overall project estimate from Shawmut, but this is the overall building permit that's not included. Bond and then fee are all kind of built in, and those are all tying to that trade cost number. Pre-construction is a fixed number. That was what we negotiated with Shawmut when they were selected, so that number is kind of just sitting there. And then escalation, again, as we're getting closer to the start of bidding, that number is gonna start to compress because we are now months away instead of a year and a half away from when that work is gonna start. You will see down at the bottom, we did have Shawmut at least give us a plug for what the building permit would be, if it were required, but that is not calculated into the numbers that we put back in that budget that we had on the previous page. So I'll stop there and just entertain any questions on Shawmut's summary of the estimate.
Steve? Just for like a more the public and make sure everybody's on the same page and understanding what's in this budget, what's not.
Yep.
What's not in is the adults, none of these adults we're gonna discuss in about 5 minutes.
Correct.
Are included, so
Yep.
including the fields.
Correct.
So
Yep.
that's not in that
Yep.
budget we were trying to get, we're trying to reduce that budget by 750K without the fields.
Right, yeah, so you're.
I just wanna be clear for
Yep, you are
everybody.
still over, even without any of the alts being currently in the
Yes.
project scope. But those alts are still in the design and they are gonna continue to advance. We'll talk about some of the variabilities around some of the timing on some of those alts when we go through that list. But yeah, it's a great clarification. All right, so, and again, we can come back to any of these pages, so if there's questions as we go. So Pat, the budget on the next slide, we talked about value engineering. This list, and this kind of format is something you saw during the schematic design step that we went through several months ago. And this is the team really trying, again, I would say we took a lot of low-hanging fruit at SD, right, to get ourselves to budget. We needed over $2 million at that step. Now we're paring that down. We're down to about $750K that we need. I would say that this is still a work in progress. We are gonna be going through this in detail with the district next week to make sure that the operations and the administration team kind of understand what these assumptions are. And there may be some that are in the number 1 column that stay in the number 1 column, which is, mutual agreement. There may be some that move. There may be some that move from the no column or the maybe columns into the 1 column. So, but we think with 677,000 at least suggested under column number 1, and then about another 200K that are in column number 2, that we can achieve that $750,000 total that we're trying to get to. But again, I think there's some in here even, just as a great example, this was a late add, number 15, wood floor gym to what is called a GER floor. So that's a synthetic manufactured floor instead of a wood floor. That came to the discussion very late. It's still in one, it probably should be in 2 or 3 right now, so that will move automatically.
The surface yet now. Right?
What's that?
It's similar to the surface they have now?
Yeah, I mean, Gordon, can you explain it a little bit, what
Yeah,
you've seen?
it's a synthetic floor. We'd be glad to take you on a tour of the one we just did. I mean, it's really, you think you're standing on a wood floor. It's come a long way. It's great for middle school. So we brought that up late because we just did one and it was really amazing. So, we'd like to show you that. If it's something that we entertain, we can go see one at a school that we just finished. But it's really just a synthetic rubber floor. Better to maintain, you can buff it back to shine, you don't have to worry about repolying it and, you know, all the scratches, and you can actually replace pieces of it if something happens. But, really neat, great floor, and we thought it was worth at least suggesting it.
What's the savings on that?
It's about, it's only $30,000, Dave, so it's, again, we're not saying take it, don't take it. The job here is to put any options on the table,
Gotcha.
so that we can really kind of have a menu of stuff to look at.
Right, we would have to really price it too, and I think
Yeah.
that
These
number
are-
will- these are conservative.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You know.
So, but it's a great point, right? Like if 30K and you're losing your wood floor, you guys may say, not worth it, let's go find it somewhere else in the process, right? Another,
It's not that, it's the.
Are
another.
we getting to that point?
Another, like,
Been to DMS.
another great example of kind of this conversation is number 4, eliminate gym divider curtain. So we put it in there. Kenny already said hard no.
Yeah.
And that's why it's already, that's over in the number 2 column. It's 50 grand, but that could impact, programming,
Instructional.
teaching and learning.
Yeah.
To divide the
So,
No, I know what it's for.
We
It's
don't-
No, I'm saying that's
Noise wise, it's,
Yeah.
whatever.
So this is gonna continue, but what we need to do for the ride process is show that we have a path to budget. Even if we're not gonna take every single one of these, and even if not every one of these realizes exactly this dollar amount, but this is the process that we go through kind of each time to say, okay, how can we get that $750,000 of compression, and in items that, again, are more and more precious the later we go on in the process. So we acknowledge that, we do not diminish the importance of everything that's in here and the importance of operating the building for sure. But there's also some things that we see that, if you didn't know you didn't have it, you wouldn't, you wouldn't miss it. So I think this will be a fluid process, and we're gonna continue to work on this, but this is what we would go to ride with as a suggestion of how we're gonna kind of achieve those budget opportunities. So I'll pause there again on any VE questions.
What is number 9?
Well, we didn't take it, so.
No, I know, yeah, I was just curious. So is it like floating floor or something?
Yeah, I think the 99% floor adhesive, Gordon, I don't know if you can speak to that, or if.
Yeah, what was the,
I think
That's
it's.
all right, I don't
yeah.
need to go down a rabbit hole.
yeah,
It's
no,
just
it
weird.
was the adhesive,
I think it's a specific type of adhesive
Oh.
that we had, and we rejected it, we rejected it out of hand, actually in our reconciliation meeting, because we have seen issues
Ah.
yeah, we need to use it.
Okay.
with kind
We need to use it, cause it's new concrete, we need to
delamination.
use it, so
Yeah.
we rejected it.
Okay.
But there is a cost to it, that's why we put it on there.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Please.
what is the process then for when you meet with the administration?
Yep.
Who's gonna be meeting, and ultimately, who's gonna who and when are the final decisions, who's gonna make the final decision, and when are they gonna be made on this list?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the next week, we wanna bring this in more detail. Actually, Perkins Eastman is working on some exhibits around some of these items. A great example is, number 16, reduce interior storefront and classroom sidelights. That does not mean get rid of them, but it means that, and you don't have a side light on any of these doors, but, right now the doors have a side window, a vertical side window. So they may be at 24 inches now. If we reduce it to 16, we're gonna see X amount of savings. So we wanna be able to show and exhibit to leadership or working group, whatever it is, to say, okay, are you willing to, are you comfortable with that, or no, you really want that 2 foot wide because it's allowing daylight in, it's allowing for visibility of staff and operations to kind of see in the building. not that you completely get rid of it when you reduce it, but it might be, less. So I think our goal would be to have that review session with whoever the right stakeholders are. I'm not gonna say who should be in the room, but I would think it would ultimately be in front of that working group that we meet with on a weekly basis, so, that would be the hope.
Is the goal to get that $750,000 value engineered down in the next week? That entire amount?
Not necessarily. We're gonna go to RIDE with this list as we're submitting it, understanding that it is still a target and that some of these things are gonna fall off and some of these things are gonna stay on.
Okay.
So, I would say there's a little bit of fluidity there, but we also don't want anybody to not, if there's a question on one of these, we wanna be able to speak to the working group and say, okay, here's what this is, do you guys agree or do you guys disagree? And if the answer is no, then it's gonna move over to column 4. If it's, yeah, we're on board with it, it'll stay in column 1.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we wanted to give you the menu, knowing that not every single, you might not order everything, right?
I'm sorry, I need to be up at East Greenwich at 6:30, so I'm gonna have to leave. So sorry.
Bye, Kim.
All right, and then, last page on this is alternates. So, this group, 2 or 3 meetings ago, went through a ranking process on a longer list of alts. I think there were about 10 or 12 that were on that list last time. I know there was a desire to kind of go through that and kind of do a prioritization. I'll give the same speech I gave last time. Alts are fluid, right, all the way through the project, and you don't have to pick them until either Shawmut or Perkins Eastman says we can't go any further without you making this decision, because and then they stay in the design process, they stay in they will be bid, and then you can make decisions as you go through that process. What we have done here is we have an updated list of alts. We've kept the prioritization that this committee voted on previously, so you'll see that rank 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are the items that this group agreed out of your vetting process that you did before, were your top priorities in order of priority. So those have stayed static, at least on the list, from that 1 through 5. The pricing that you see on the right is relatively in alignment. I would say a couple of these items actually came down, not significantly, tens of thousands of dollars. And again, that's because better information, we've been able to see a little bit of movement in a downward trend on that. What we've also included is additional alts that were on the documents. And some of these will look familiar to you because they were on the previous round. Some of them, like we said before, number 12 in the grayed out column on the left, if you look at number 12, which is on the bottom, that's that sanitary enabling work. So PARG said, we think it's about 300 linear feet of sleeting underneath the paved areas. Shawmut came back with an allowance against that of about $65,000. So this alt list will change again as we move from this step into 60%. But what we're trying to do is make sure that your top 5 rank stay in that top 5, so that at least we have continuity across each of the estimates as we go through this process. I would just say on a couple of these, 1 and 2, I think committee is well aware of what those are. That's the one is delivering the entire field package as shown in the plan as an all. Number 2 is improvements at the existing softball field. Number 3 was ranked before. That's the air source heat pumps, and that's getting us to a higher level of electrification for the building, so that gets us up to 85%. With that gas boiler only there for those extreme cold temperatures, so that would come on and help provide the reheats for the system as you need that. But it reduces, I think, from, I don't know if it's from 4 to 1 or from 2 to 1 of the gas-fired boilers, and that is one that, Mark, I don't know if you want to speak to.
Sure, I can speak to it.
Yeah.
That's the one of these, I think, that we probably need to make a decision on sooner rather than later, because we wouldn't be designing 2 different systems, or the cost to designing 2 different systems would not be worth it, right, in terms of the cost of what we're looking at in terms of the overall system. So what we've talked to our mechanical engineers, and given the schedule we've talked about with TD, that's really something that we'd like to have a decision this month, not go into July. Still sort of on the bubble in terms of which one we're going to be looking at. I will add that there are incentives associated with this kind of system. They are rebates, so they're not, they don't eliminate the day one cost. There's something that's after the project's complete. Just want to be clear, I think there's about $235,000 worth of incentives, which is pretty good if you're looking at, a $334,000 premium for this. But again, that's, I will say, and Sam, you can speak to that in terms of, those are, we have to meet certain performance criteria to get the full rebate. So there's a little bit of risk
not
there.
guaranteed.
Right, it's not a guaranteed.
And also, I would just say, it comes to you in two pieces. You get a piece of your efficiency rebates at substantial completion. Then you have to show a year's worth of operating trending information in order to get the second half released. We have seen most folks achieve that and get the full tranche, but you have to kind of, the proof is in the kind of the delivery and how you operate the building after the fact to show that everything that you said you were going to do is actually operating as you intended.
Sam, is that separate, that number 3, is that separate and apart from air conditioning?
No, it's just a further electrified version of the system that will deliver heating and cooling to the entire building.
Yeah.
And it would, I would also say it would probably put us up over that 180 point.
It does. I think it's about 15 points on the CHIPS list. So it's a big chunk on that. I'm not sure that's driving your decisions, but it does help us on CHIPS.
Yeah, and Mark, you and I also talked about, because I wouldn't suspect that this group would want to make a decision on one all tonight, and I wouldn't ask you to. The alternative could be that Mark's team does do dual design at an additional cost, so that you could continue, so you could kind of extend the decision making.
Yeah, we could do that. We could, right now, the design fees don't cover doing 2 different systems through construction documents to bid. We could do that. I don't have a hard number for that. We were just talking about that today. That I think that's, how committed you all are to seeing this through. I mean, it does. There are a lot. I'll say there's a lot of sustainability features still in the building in terms of the envelope, in terms of the equipment we will be speccing, and high efficiency boilers and et cetera. So it's not that this is the only sustainable feature that's kind of on the table. There's a lot of things that are still part of the project, but this would get us a lot closer to electrification.
Have we done like a life cycle cost analysis on the 2 systems?
I don't know that we've completed that yet. I know that's
Yeah.
part of the DD submission.
Is there some level of like off the cuff maintenance, from a maintenance standpoint or a life cycle longevity standpoint, is one, are we getting any other benefits other than the energy efficiency? Just wondering what other benefits we could see from an operations standpoint if we were to select this at all. I don't know.
Yeah, I believe CMTA has done.
Yeah,
the
I don't
cost
have that with
benefit.
me, but we can get you that information.
What it does come with is higher electrical costs, right? Because
Yeah,
you're
it's-
going to a more electrified system.
This thing, just how we determine this and sell to the public, we get a higher electrical, I guess whatever the score is for what's the word I'm looking for? Electrification.
Electrification.
Yeah, so, which is great, but what are the benefits, what are the costs we're looking at down the road?
Yep.
Just so we're spending money, we're gonna spend money to spend more money later too as well.
I guess a variable too would be whether or not future solar would help to defray the cost as we become more electrified.
Right, the more electrification, the more you can support that with PVs.
Unless we're
right?
selling the solar output to some third party, so.
Which you'd still get, I mean,
You
then
still
then
get
you get a
some,
lease, so
right.
it kind of performs the same way, and then they're the ones kind of navigating that whole process for you guys, with your group.
can we revisit the generator conversation just to
Yeah, and I was gonna go there.
Oh.
So perfect.
There you go. Okay, nice segue. Well, then I'll let you
Yeah,
take it over.
so, right now, and this goes to some of the comments earlier about, so the school is not designed as an emergency shelter. Emergency shelter is a very high standard from a structural standpoint, from what, all the things you have to perform in that building when you do have emergencies. We have spent, I think, a fair amount of time with EMA, with public safety, with leadership group on what the hoped-for standards are for the building. And it was, try to kind of replicate the level of service that's provided when there is a potential emergency at Wickford Middle School today. So currently in the base, you only have the basic, the generator size is only to provide the basic life safety that we would for any building. So, and Mark, I don't know if you want to speak to kind of what's in that. Number 5 gets you the full level of service as kind of requested by the EMA team and the town team. So that would get you, and I'm gonna overgeneralize this, but gymnasium, the cafeteria, kitchen,
Right, I
and
think,
a couple supporting rooms around it.
yeah,
would
that
have
wing of the building,
Yeah,
right,
they would have
fully, the larger one. So the
electric
base,
and
right.
HVAC, right?
right, or base in the project is to operate emergency lighting and life safety issues. That's where we're starting. The larger generator would support the whole wing, and I believe the number 6, is it?
Yeah.
Is
The no rank
just
item.
is just gym, I think,
I
or
think-
just cafeteria.
I think it's gym and cafeteria.
Okay,
So
yeah.
there's that's a more moderated, but when you guys ranked, you picked number 5.
Was there a 1.25 megawatt?
There was, that's,
We agree with dropping
Yeah,
that from the
that fell
equation.
off.
Oh, that would be full building, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
that'd be
I-
full building, everything.
I just wanna make sure I wasn't
Yeah.
losing it.
Mhm.
I-
Which we would never, we don't see.
Yeah, 'cause I saw that.
Unless it's
I
in
remember
like a
seeing-
healthcare or that type of.
So 600 gets the emergency shelter?
It gets a relief
No.
center consistent with the standards that we heard from the emergency management folks.
Yeah, just what,
Are there alternative funding sources to get that?
Yep, and there could be.
Like through REMA or something like that, or no?
I don't know what, we haven't pursued any, so I know there's been some discussions around, are there grants available to
Right,
kind of
right.
support these? I think probably the challenge, or you might have a challenge of timing and approval versus kind of making these decisions, so.
I believe we are, I believe we have pursued through Chief Lineker in my office some federal money.
Yeah.
Through Jack Reed, but there isn't anything, there's nothing in REMA. But there is some federal money that we feel somewhat positive about. I mean, Senator Reed's really been, bringing a lot to the table.
Always
Exactly,
supportive,
so,
yeah.
but.
So, given that that is a fairly significant amount, almost $200,000 difference, and that sounded like it was a request from the town side, not to put you on the spot, but is there any way that we could collaborate and possibly get some funding from the town? Because the 400 kilowatt, or KW,
Yep.
just to make sure I'm saying everything, is about 180 less than, and that's potentially what we as a school might have decided, but since the town is requesting or suggesting we go with the bigger one, is there any funding that the town could give us?
I wouldn't say, nothing's off the table.
Okay.
So, yeah, so whether it's, I think that the town, whether it's for some federal money, some recommendation we have as far as the school, but everything's on the table, so yes.
Okay.
I would not say
But I
it's off
think
the table.
I'm gonna assume we kind of run into a similar, I mean, it's not like designing two systems,
Yeah.
it's just,
This
it's
has a little bit
different,
of
but
time.
it goes back to the lead time
Yeah.
of a 600 KW generator versus a 400
Right.
versus a 200.
Or just in general, when you have to kind of
Yeah.
make a decision, that is not as acute as as number 3. But, and again, I think once we get through this step, then we're gonna really start to apply dates to these.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these are, the fields, the flexibility of the fields is you can make that decision much later.
Mhm.
Some of these other items are gonna start to crop up because of early release or just completion of design documents, however we're gonna kind of get to those things.
But aren't we bidding these as alternates? I'm a little bit confused.
We are, yep, yeah, but, so I would say on the generator, we could bid both, but at some point Gordon's gotta buy one of them, right, so that's
Right, and
the
the
key.
600 is a longer lead time,
Yeah.
just so you know.
Gotcha.
So we would have to make a decision on that.
Yeah, so less of a design implication there, Ralph, more of a, hey, when do we have to procure this thing in order to kind of buy it out, and that's
Because
probably
when,
gonna be.
when it comes to alternates, you usually make those decisions when the bids come.
Yes, I would say like number 3 is that exception, right?
And apparently number 5 also.
No,
Okay.
I think we have time on that. If you recall, when we talked about this before, geothermal,
Yep.
that ship was sailed on April 1, which is kind of the deadline we gave this group, and you guys ranked it, I think, at the bottom of your list, right? So that's now kind of no longer in the documents anymore. These, I think for the most part, these can stay in, but it's not perfect, you know, on some of these, because they have to, you know, because of the design implications and timing and everything else.
Sam, why is number 11 not on the VE list? Like, why would that be here instead of on the VE list?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Thank you.
Stylistically, I'll defer to my, I'll defer to my Shawmut. This one, I think it's probably gonna go away, and again, we give you guys this list and it's somewhat raw form.
Yes, all right.
So, it's one we threw out there, yeah.
Not excited about it,
Yeah,
I guess.
I mean, I think a little bit of uncertainty, I think we need a little bit more work around it before, we make a decision. This option has an aesthetic impact that Perkins Eastman is working around. There's certainly some purchasing kind of conversations, because what we've looked at so far is a foreign product. So there's concern about shipping, there's concern about tariffs, there's concern about all these other things. So, it might go by the wayside.
So being that we've already done this once, what exactly does the committee need to do tonight?
This is just what we are gonna submit as part of our package to RIDE.
Perfect.
You are no more than what you voted on last time for prioritization. You know, alts, again, I'll say it again, are fluid. So, but we wanted to make sure that we preserve the ranking that you guys did before, and these additional ideas that, again, we're always trying to figure out how the budget gets managed. So we're continuing to kind of show these to you guys and let you understand.
So you're submitting this to RIDE, there's no decision that have to be made tonight, although it seems like there's a couple that are gonna have to be made relatively soon.
Yeah.
But, the school committee hasn't approved this yet, right?
So,
They wanted
I'd
to
like
see the full list, right?
I'd like to jump in with this, and actually, I have my own question, because unfortunately, I had to leave that meeting early, so I was not there for the vote, and so
It's another item on tonight's agenda, I'll show you now.
Oh, okay,
So we can
because
talk about it.
There is another round?
There is an item for add alternates that's on the agenda.
I thought that was number 8, I thought, are we not on number 8 right now?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're still on
We're
7.
still on 7.
Can we move on to 8, are we all set with 7?
I think we need a vote.
Got it.
And you can vote on this all afterwards too, so, and we still have to go through the CIP presentation. So we can either pause and you guys can jump around the agenda, or we can go through CIP and then you guys can do your votes.
I can save my comments until
Okay.
we get to that
Yeah.
agenda item, thank
It's
you.
your guys' meeting, Okay. Any more questions right now on the middle school design development submission?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, because we talked about it last time and I need to refresh my memory. What's the capability from a emergency shelter standpoint we have in the building today? I remember big things, we don't wanna go back with less than we have now,
Yep.
isn't it correct?
I mean, I can't speak for
that's what-
EMA.
look in the wrong
Well, no, but I think you're exactly right. I think that what we're looking for is, at the very least, what we already have
Exactly.
today.
Yeah.
Now, I'm saying that, but I think this may give us a little more. I will say that, but our goal at the table was, we don't want anything less than what we have today, but I do wanna say that I think this gives us slightly more.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Yeah, the current generator situation just does kind of critical lighting. Doesn't cover the cafeteria, refrigeration, freezers, none of that.
Well, I think, just to be clear, the current school is designated as a shelter, but now there's new.
I don't know if it is.
That's not.
I wouldn't,
You don't think so?
Again, I don't know,
Okay.
but designation is a very different level.
Right.
Yes.
As opposed
Right.
to, you can call it an emergency shelter, it doesn't mean it's an emergency shelter, right? Like, that is a
Right.
federal
It's a
and
place
state-
where people go.
Our shelter is a joint shelter with South Kingstown right now.
Yeah.
We have a joint shelter in South Kingstown, but this is without question, we have called this an emergency shelter in the past, but it definitely should be called a relief center. But we have called it an emergency shelter,
Yeah.
there's no doubt about we have.
At some point historically, the, whatever the regulations were to call it a shelter were far different.
Yeah.
And, you know, the capacity of generators was far different, and if you looked at our generator now, which unfortunately we had to use a couple of weeks ago for days.
And we looked at it with you.
Yeah, you
really
saw it,
was.
yeah. It's a totally different beast than, today,
All right.
Good.
Good? Okay. We can always go back. All right, now we're gonna go to CIP. This will be a little bit quicker. And then you guys can decide how you wanna vote and when you wanna vote. So, I'm gonna turn it over to Ed and to Mike for them to go through, there's only 6 more slides. Ed, the floor is yours, my friend. Here.
You can advance.
Yeah.
Try and keep this as high level as I can without missing anything. We did, as we mentioned earlier, get the pricing back on the design development package at the elementaries. And just to take a moment to talk about the scope that's included in that. We are doing the media center renovations as part of this work, with its associated MEP scope, as well as FF&E, which is carried in the project budget. All except for Davisville, because there isn't any at that school presently. We are creating secure entry vestibules at all of the buildings as well, which was always part of the scope. Again, as we had discussed previously, we are making the roofs watertight by recovering the roofs. We are not doing a complete tear off as we had done at the high school. That actually was the biggest savings relative to the overall cost for the project. We do include the gym divider replacement at Hamilton, Quidnesset, and Stony Lane. There are limited site accessibility improvements. We're doing some handicap parking restriping and signage. We're taking care of the main route to the building, as well as select entrances and exits from different wings of each one of the buildings. There's also some playgrounds that need to be connected, as well as some planting and garden areas at several of the schools as well. And then there are limited code improvements in all of the buildings. Each one varies depending on what we found associated relative to life safety, building, and or accessibility. And the plan was to pull them all together in one package for a general contractor bid with phased construction over 2 summers. We've got 3 schools in the first summer and then the other 3 in the following summer.
And then I think that prioritization was based on some feedback from the district, from Bridget, from the facilities director about roofs and water infiltration that we're seeing that is more dire.
Correct.
So that's why you see Quid, Davisville Academy, and Hamilton as that first tranche, and then the other schools as the second tranche. Because I think when we came into this, we weren't sure exactly how we were gonna split up the 2, and it really helped to get that feedback.
The blizzard I opened.
There were a lot of phone calls that week. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask a quick question? It's on this slide, and actually this is for Bridget, because we discussed this a lot last night, the accessibility audit that you all are doing, and then I'm seeing on here there are some accessibility improvements. I just wanna kind of ask the question and make sure that they're not overlapping. Like, in other words, are you all in other words, you're not doing projects that they
Right.
were gonna do and vice versa?
Right, we're working together. Actually, Ed helped inform some information on that report last night and what
Oh,
we're
okay.
working towards. So yes, we're very aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
And then just to go back to the roofs again, you'll recall that we did the infrared roof scans, and the insulation for the most part was in really good shape. It was dry, it's usable. That's what precipitated us for taking this path and sort of solidifying that. There's some extra counter taper insulation. We found some ponding that we're gonna take care of as part of this, but at the end of the project, the roofs will be watertight and the buildings will be dry. Next slide. And then diving a little bit deeper into the media center scope, we haven't specifically discussed this at the building committee, but in addition to the lighting, power, data, the fire protection modifications, where the buildings have sprinkler systems presently, and the fire alarm. The mechanical work specifically, because this has come up several times with different individuals in town as well as with RIDE. The plan is sort of as follows. Fishing Cove, I'm gonna lump them together, and Forest Park are gonna get new rooftop units to serve those spaces, new ductwork, and VRFs for cooling. Hamilton is sort of the only outlier. We're gonna provide a new air handler unit inside, which is actually a benefit because it won't be exposed to the weather. We have a storage room right there where we can suspend a unit and actually go right through the roof. And then Quidnesset had the rooftop unit replaced not that long ago. So we're gonna modify the ductwork there. We're gonna improve it relative to sound attenuation and control, and change the duct layout to suit that, what is existing open area, which will be the new media center and small group instruction rooms. And then Stony Lane, which hasn't had that rooftop unit replaced, we'll have it replaced, and then we'll do the same thing there inside as well.
Can you elaborate on what VRF is, and why we're not doing it at Stony?
We have cooling inside the RTU in that particular case.
Okay.
So all of these spaces, even though they don't get VRS, will be heated and cooled.
Remind me, the Rhode Island Energy Agreement that we entered into, does it cover the CIP or is it just for Whitford Middle?
That was specific to Whitford Middle School.
Are we gonna do something similar for these? I know there's not a lot of money, but there might be with the VRF, and if we're doing,
It's very small.
I understand,
Yeah, it's something worth looking into, yes.
I think it is. I mean, you just give them the plans and, you know, I think they.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what they can do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine there's some controls work associated with the,
Very minor.
yeah.
It's really in the unit itself. They'll give you so much per ton. But it's still worth it. Next slide. Oh, schedule.
Yeah, so I think schedule, Ed kind of alluded to it. This one is a little bit more legible and not as many moving parts, but I think, you know, the idea is that design is kind of wrapping up in the fall, going out to bid at the end of the year in Q4. And again, and we don't speak as much here on DMS because we're not asked to speak in that approval, but those semi-parallel processes for those approval steps happening and then going out to bid, so that in early Q1, early to mid Q1, we have kind of an understanding of the entire landscape of the costs that are gonna be in front of, you know, the community for all the CIP. And then again, as Ed alluded to, you know, the first 3 schools in the summer of '27, second 3 schools in the summer of '28.
One thing I'd like to touch on before we get into the numbers, the documents did include 2 add alternates. No, back to the other side, please, thank you. Oh. Right there, okay, thank you. We did have an ad alternate for built-in bookcases in the media centers in lieu of furniture, which was something that came out of our initial meetings with RIDE to try and increase our reimbursable. And then alternate number 2 is for daylighting devices to the classrooms adjacent to that center core at Quidnesset and Stony Lane. And you can see where those numbers came in there. We did also include some allowances, just general to cover the bases for damaged roof insulation, wood blocking, and unforeseen mechanical repairs. It's not a lot of money, but, with fine tuning that scope with both the roof and the mechanical work, we were able to bring this in much less than at the schematic phase, as well as, the reduction in, design and pricing contingency from schematic to design.
What percentage of contingency are you carrying now for the elementary schools?
Design and pricing, I think, is at 5%.
5%?
And then they are carrying escalation according to which phase the school was.
How much like construction / owner's contingency are we carrying in the construction cost?
That's on the project budget side.
I don't know if you have an answer.
5%.
Okay. One more reason for asking, I feel like we're gonna run into stuff in these buildings when we start opening them up.
Yes.
For sure.
We're gonna find a way to use that for agency.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think we also might wanna consider as we advance from this step to the next step is if we're seeing this improving on the hard cost side, maybe not doing dollar for dollar reduction on contingency, like hold it at a fixed number as opposed to having the time.
Yeah, exactly. I don't look at the cost we discussed earlier of the $7 million nearly as real money yet.
Yeah.
I think that's money
Agreed.
we're gonna
Yeah.
spend in those buildings
Right.
for the most
Right.
part. Okay.
Yeah, I think we even talked about that early on, right, when we saw the first wave of kind of improvement, that however the group wants to decide, there should be a dollar value that's there for, I'd say a bigger contingency bucket across all the CIP work, and then let it be there to kind of react to the issue of the day. You get through the 27th summer, then you'll have a better assessment of that contingency bucket, right? And then 28 summer, and then DMS obviously is gonna influence all that as well.
Which is exactly what we're doing with the high school roof this summer.
Yeah.
So that's actually a really good segue in that. Although we're showing substantial savings after the DD estimate, and these numbers reflect total project costs, so these numbers reflect owner's contingency, FF&E, commissioning agent, it includes all things. But I think you're right, to say that right now we've realized $7 million in savings would be premature. Especially not having DD cost estimates on DMS as of yet, to understand how to reallocate those dollars. And I think from what was just discussed, there's some good ideas, whether or not we cap contingency at a certain dollar amount, get through 27, reevaluate to be able to get through 28. I think that there's ways that we can handle it, that the committee can still be making informed decisions. But I think it's wise to not think about this as $7 million of savings today. One thing that didn't talk about earlier, just to make everyone aware though, is that Ed went through what were the add alternates for the built-in bookcases and the skylights. Obviously those alternates have not been accepted, but for the total project budget, they were assumed as accepted, so that's a worst case scenario. So when you look at the numbers by school, that actually builds in all the built-in bookcases, everything else that Ed was discussing previously. So if ultimately the committee decides not to do that work, there's, again, over $600,000 there, although I would say that over $300,000 in the built-in shelving is reimbursable, whereas FF&E it would not be. So pause there if there's any questions about the overall budget.
These budget numbers include FF&E as well?
Yeah. So this is just a roll-up of, similar to the document that Sam shared before for Worcester Middle School.
Same thing.
It's that same document, this is just rolled up with the subtotal for each one.
Steve, I will clarify though, and this is consistent since stage 2, those are allowances against FF&E. We have not done an FF&E pricing, so we apply kind of a constant allowance across all the typicals, mostly media center, oriented. So that's a step that we'll need to start to kind of flesh out as we advance into 60% to really start to get numbers against all those items that you saw in the great pictures of the media centers and say, okay, is, you know, for example, on Fishing Cove, and I think most of them are consistent, we had $325,000 of FF&E as a whole.
This would be a big part of those media centers making.
Exactly, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's as much the furniture as it is the kind of the
Yeah.
physical bricks and sticks in those spaces, for sure. But I think, you know, to Ed's point, Mike's point, if you build in some of that millwork, then now it's reimbursable too, so that's a good thing. And so that might relieve a little bit of your FF&E need against that line item. Any more questions on the CIP? All right, that concludes our presentations.
All right.
You guys can decide how you wanna march through the remaining items, how you wanna vote. We're here for support.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry. You know that
So,
a lot.
do we wanna take these separately? Or all together?
Why don't we take them separately?
Separately, okay. So CIP and WMS?
Sure.
Okay. All right, let's start with the, I guess we'll start with the CIP. Does anyone have a motion for the CIP design development? Hold on. Submission to RIDE.
So that's number 10. I'm just trying to, because it's gonna help me with my wording.
I think it's number 11, right?
Yeah, it's the CIP, so it's,
Oh, I guess, yeah, okay, so we can move down to number 11?
Do you want to start with number 8, the adults, just go?
There you go, let's do that.
Yeah, let's just start with like.
Good idea. We'll go in order.
Thank you. That helps me out a lot. That helps me.
All right, we'll go in order, I like it. All right.
quick question,
Yeah.
if you have it off the top of your head, can you refresh our memories on, the reimbursable amount of Wickford Middle School? Do you know, or a rough estimate?
The MOA approval, I wanna say it's right around 50 to 51 million is the MOA.
Okay.
Yeah. I can get it while we're sitting here.
And what was the total project, were we at 70?
72.5 is
Yeah,
your,
okay.
is kind of the cap that we came out of the stage 2 approval.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so we will move on to number 8, which is prioritization at alt ads for the new Wickford Middle School. This is not a voting item, but to reiterate, the building committee's previous recommendation for the ad alternates for the new Wickford Middle School was brought to the school committee. Their vote at that meeting was a 2-2 tie, because some members didn't believe we had to be more transparent regarding the geothermal. And so a new list must be approved with the prioritization of the adults, not just the top 5. So I know that Dr. Duva will be preparing a memo to send to the school committee at the June 16th meeting regarding this. He noted that while the geothermal systems will not be installed as part of the current project scope due to the budget, the building will be designed and constructed to be approximately 85% electric powered and net zero ready through future PV solar installation. And this approach balances environmental sustainability, fiscal responsibility, and long-term operational flexibility while maintaining the district's commitment to energy efficient design. So I guess I'll open this for discussion.
I have a comment to add because as I mentioned before, I was not at that meeting. One of the issues, or the issue, was that they wanted us, or Dr. Duva, to better explain to the public that we were not getting net zero. I took it a step further and I said, well, if we're gonna explain to the public why we're not getting one, we need to explain to the public why we're not getting all. I have not been able to say that at a school committee meeting because it was not on the agenda, but I have written in about that, and I just wanna put that on the record for this committee, that, we made our decision, we made our recommendation, we passed it on to the school committee. I apologize I wasn't there that evening, cause then it would have gone through, But if they're going to put a demand like that on us, then I think we need to be completely transparent. So I'm not exactly sure, to be honest with you, what they really want from us in terms of coming back with an actual priority list. I'm very confused about, it wasn't that they weren't approving our list. It was, they didn't like that we hadn't properly explained, right, why we
My
weren't
understanding was that it was because geothermal was not listed on, it wasn't part of the add-ons. And that's because this group determined that geothermal, after getting the cost in, was not to be considered really on the priority list.
And the
for the add-ons, given that
timeline, the
correct.
time had passed, we would have had to move the entire project, correct, Sam, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there was a design constraint there that we had to make a
Yeah,
decision
the
on.
fact is, if we tried to do geothermal, the building would not open in 2028.
Right.
And we probably need to go back for more money from some entity, whether it be the town or some other process, but it would delay this project at least a year.
Which we wouldn't even be guaranteed to find that
Correct.
money in the process, so who knows, the delay would have ended up costing us that much more.
So I'll echo Sam's point earlier that add alternates are fluid. I don't wanna speak for Dr. Dewar, but it's my understanding that he will be preparing, an official memo to the school committee for the June 16th meeting, articulating the add alternates priorities, including the geothermal in the manner that this committee decided.
I guess I'm still confused, so we have the top 5 rankings?
Correct.
But the remainder are not in any particular order, I just don't wanna bring another list to them, recommendation to them and have them reject.
I thought they wanted to see like all the add alternates in order, beyond number 5.
That was my
I
understanding.
thought that's how we, and I don't.
I know.
we
Isn't
explained
that
it
what
here.
this is then?
So,
We only ranked top 5.
No, but like
and
the
then-
list that's in there now,
But it's
isn't
also,
that more?
but it's also my understanding that along the way, we have let things go off the list,
Yes.
And
like
brought
geothermal
things
and
on
other
the list.
things
That's a good point.
Right.
along the way. So that list could be far longer than what this 12 items
Correct.
is.
Yeah.
And going back to historically add all those things back in to then prioritize them
Yeah.
is
Going to take a
problematic.
yeah.
Yes.
I don't remember that being exact,
No.
I don't have like an exact memory of it, but my recollection was that the geothermal piece was the piece that was the sticking point because geothermal had been, it had been discussed previously, there had been quite a bit of public discussion around it for some time, and that was absent from the list before.
But so were walls and fields
I-
and roofs.
listen.
I just, this is very confusing to me. So I guess my bottom line is, I just wanna make sure whatever we decide upon tonight, again,
Mhm.
is going to be what is required of us so that the recommendation does not fail on June 16th. Can you please, for the public, explain what happens if this does not get approved on June 16th at the school committee meeting?
Assuming you did not have another school committee meeting until
August 18th.
We would lose that amount of time, yeah, you lose 60 days.
Because we need an approved adult list to go to RIDE, is that correct?
It's part of the overall package. RIDE does not say we approve or disapprove of your alt list.
Yeah, but
They see it as, okay, this is how they are managing their budget. So RIDE is not gonna say, we approve everything but your alt list. It's just, that's not how they look. They look at the package in its entirety. And they also understand that the alt list at 60% probably will have some similar items, but it'll also have some new items. As an example, another school that we just submitted on, we added 5 alts at, after 60%.
of course.
At a recommendation of RIDE, which was a great conversation. So that fluidity that Rob mentioned is the name of the game when it comes to kind of, looking at that list.
Okay.
So do you think what Dr. Duva proposes to write up will answer the mail for the school committee? I mean, I guess that's the question. And maybe he's the one they answer.
Yeah, I mean, again, I believe so.
Okay.
I, based on conversations I've had with him, that's his understanding,
Yes.
is that was really what was,
The sticking point.
yeah, Yeah, what was raised as the concern. I was at that meeting too, and that's my recollection of it. Is that we just need to submit that with a little more clarity as far as the geothermal piece.
So do you wanna make a motion then?
Sure.
to-
All
or
right,
you wanna do
let's,
it?
well, let's make a motion to recommend that the school committee approve the add alternates list as proposed here with the inclusion of geothermal as a, not within the scope of the add alternates.
It's essentially a rejected ad alternate.
There you go. Yeah.
So,
With an explanation of why, I guess.
So approve the alt list as presented minus the geothermal.
With an explanation.
Yeah, so approve add alternate list with the mention of geothermal as not being part of the list and an explanation for that.
And is part of this motion the fact that Kenny, Dr. Duba, sorry, is gonna be putting that recommendation together?
That's correct.
That explanation together.
Correct. You want to second it?
I'll second it.
You seconded?
I'll second it.
All right, any more discussion?
So for discussion purposes, I'm really trying to think about whether I wanna say no in this meeting or if I wanna say no in the school committee meeting. And the reason I say that is, I'm still of the mindset that if we're going to talk about not getting net zero, then there needs to be an explanation. I think it should come from the school committee as to why we're not getting the other things. So I don't wanna taint this motion, or I'm going to, I'm one vote. But I don't wanna say no here. I guess I'm just trying to better understand, maybe I'll bring this up in the school committee, but I'm very frustrated that you can't just pick and choose what you wanna decide to tell the public. So, I'm not loving this motion, but
So I would add some discussion here about, I think there is some value in, this group has met regularly on a monthly basis. We have an internal working group that meets weekly that goes over all of these kinds of things. Dr. Duba has sat on both of those groups and provided extensive discussion and, partnered with many stakeholders in the process. And I think I am comfortable as a committee member that he is adequately representing what we're trying to accomplish here. And so perhaps as part of the discussion in this motion, allowing a little bit of leeway in that he, is representing the fluidity that's upon us and recognizing that some things go off and come on, and that this group has vetted the list as it comes. In my time here, that's what I've seen, and the list that we are putting forward with priorities adequately represents where we are today, knowing that things are gonna change in the future. This is not going to be set forever, but with the fluidity that I think he can present where we are as part of that number, that would be what I would add.
I think that's a great idea, and I'm sure he will do that at the meeting. Okay.
And that may give us a little leeway into whatever they may need at the school committee the
Right.
next go around, if we all are in agreement that we feel the same for Dr. Duke.
Okay,
Any further discussion?
thanks, Bridget.
Yep, thank you. All right, hearing no discussion, we'll call a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. All right, moving on. All right, item 9, ride spend down item eligibility for Whitford Middle School. So for this item,
So that's me.
yep, this would be Bridget, and you wanna go ahead?
Sure, so, as part of our spend down requirement for the food and nutrition program at the school, it has come to our attention that RIDE would consider some additional, purchases at the Wickford Middle School to fall under an eligibility for that umbrella. We have already spent some of those funds at other schools, and typically the spend down from RIDE in this area does not allow for capital improvement projects. However, things like equipment, like ovens, refrigerators, entry doors that have handicap accessibility, some of those kinds of things are the kinds of things that would be eligible for the RIDE reimbursement. So it is going to be upon us to put forward a recommendation to RIDE to release some of that money from the spend down plan for some of those items that might actually free up money in other areas. So at a first glance, when we proposed the spend down plan to the school committee, we identified about $330,000 for that purpose. So I wanted to just update this group that is something that is underway for our review, so that we can identify what specific things we'd like to put forward to, perhaps meet that about $300,000. That's not going to delay in any way the project itself, but maybe play the shell game of freeing up money elsewhere. So it's like a win, I think, for us. So we'll be very excited to see what kinds of things might come out of that as we work very closely with Peregrine and also under the specific items of eligibility from RIDE to put forward some equipment specific items that would not be capital improvement but are required as part of opening a building, frankly.
Thank you, Bridget. Any further discussion or questions?
Good news.
I know, that was very exciting news.
That's the win.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll need a motion for this. Bridget, you wanna?
So I guess the motion is, I assume perhaps maybe somebody would like to make a motion that we continue to explore this option and, put forward a recommendation to RIDE based on these equipment items that we determine, or if this group would like to see specifics as opposed, that get to that 300,000, knowing that it's equipment based. It is not bricks and mortar in any way. It's not that, but it would free up money.
My opinion is that I would be very comfortable tasking you all, whether it's you and whomever else, so that's just my opinion, but I don't know what the rest of the group feels.
Maybe
think
that's
I
the
feel fine.
motion, maybe that's the motion?
I know, I'm just looking around like, is everybody okay with that?
Yeah,
Steve, you look like you're about to ask a question.
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. Just wanna make sure.
My eyes are dry.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to task Bridget and the administration with exploring our options and bringing back recommendations.
Second.
Okay.
To task Bridget and administration.
I don't know, who would you?
It would be mostly the food and nutrition and finance people.
Okay, so yeah, so Bridget
Administration.
and central admin,
Yeah.
To continue to explore.
yes, the,
Spend down.
the spend down options.
Okay.
And who
So
seconded that?
Steve seconded it?
The guys first,
Yeah. All right, any further discussion?
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Next item, Wickford Middle School Stage 3, Design Development Submission to RIDE. So, we heard the presentation, very extensive detail. Do we have a motion for this, item? Which would be, to support the Stage 3 Design Development Submission to RIDE. Again, I want to reflect that this milestone, signifies substantial progress in the project's development and demonstrates that the design continues to align with educational specifications, facility needs, budget expectations, and state requirements. So,
I'll make the motion that we recommend approval to submit the Stage 3 Design Development Submission to RIDE, the school committee. I think I phrased that right.
So this is gonna go before the school committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
So recommendation to the school committee to approve the Stage 3 Design Development Submission to RIDE for Middle School.
School committee improvement. Push.
all right, second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Just want to thank our presenters tonight for providing us with that update.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Right,
And then the same thing.
okay.
Just right.
CIP, same thing?
So you wanna make a motion?
I'd like the same motion, except replace Whitford Middle School with CIP projects, elementary school stabilization.
Okay,
Okay, second?
Efficient.
Second.
so Steve, wait a minute.
Just keep Steve as the.
I
So
said-
Steve,
The mover.
and then who seconded it? I think
Dave.
Dave. Dave, okay.
Okay. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, next item. Peregrine Group Amendment for Commissioning Agent Services, High School Roof.
Yep. So if it's okay, I'm gonna go through all three of these and then you could vote on them. Does that
That
make
sounds
sense?
good, yeah, that sounds
We
perfect.
did not print all these for you guys. They were in the packet. I do have one copy of each and we're gonna just go through them really quickly here. So if you wanna pass them around and look at them. So first on the list is a Peregrine Group amendment for our work in the CIP projects. I think we described this a little bit earlier. So due to the timing and what was approved, the Stephen Turner proposal was exclusively for Whitford Middle School. It did not include any of the CIP work, which is why there is an RFQ out right now for those services. However, due to the urgent nature of the high school roof activities, i.e. we want to do a pre-construction commissioning of all the equipment before they pick it off the roof, and then we want to do a post-construction commissioning once they put it back on. At the request of the district, we agreed to take Stephen Turner under our umbrella just for this limited scope of services. That is for a cost of $35,000. And then you can see the detail behind that. In addition, as a result of review on the insurance requirements, it was determined that Stephen Turner had to have, and this is coming from the district insurance, the trust, that they had to have a cyber coverage. So we were not able to finalize that before we issued this, but we put in an allowance of $5,000, which I think should be adequate to cover that. We would submit that cost directly so that if it's $4,000, then it's only gonna be $4,000, but we wanted to include that allowance here. We also requested to the school, the district and the committee's attorney that we get some type of waiver for liability, since this is not typically a service that we would bring under our umbrella. So Andrew Henius has drafted this, it has been reviewed by our attorney and our insurance, and we're just waiting for feedback from Attorney Henius on this to finalize it, so.
I approved the 39,000, not the math. No, why 39,000?
Why?
Is it just a math error?
34,000 is the actual Stephen Turner proposal. I think that's the typo. So it's
Oh.
34
I'm
for the
sorry.
proposal, 5 for the insurance. But the insurance, they're estimated to be like 3, but we just
Yeah, I
haven't
gotcha.
confirmed that. I wasn't gonna tell you. I wasn't gonna say it.
It's the 39,000.
As you brought it up.
So that's for that one. I can answer any questions. Thank you, Andrew. I'm blushing.
So that's supposed to be 4,000?
It's supposed to be 34,000, correct. The bottom line is correct. The 39,000 total is
So
correct.
the 35 is wrong.
Correct. Should be 34.
So that's change order number 1. That would be for Peregrine Group. If we then continue on to Perkins Eastman, so as a requirement of the planning commission process that we are going through, if you recall, we had this discussion at the last meeting. There is a mandate in town that irrigation cannot be tapping into domestic water. And the planning commission wants to stay consistent with not only its private applicants, but also anything to do with public applicants. So far to date, we have made the assumption that we were able to tie into domestic in the early design decisions. What is required now is that we need to do an analysis to determine how to size a on-site cistern system to provide that water without tapping into domestic. So the first step in that is Perkins Eastman is gonna hire a company, Aquios, who is one of the leaders kind of in the market when it comes to irrigation design, feasibility analysis, so that they can come up with an order of magnitude on cost and kind of sizing of what that cistern, that underground system would look like. So this is a very light lift initially for them to go through that process and then come back to the design team and say, okay, this is what we think the cost is, and this is what we think, you know, the kind of the size of what a tank would be required to kind of put into the ground and provide that. So that's what that's the nature of this proposal here. The backup is included from Aqueous as well as Perkins Eastman's overview on the second page.
So there'll be a subsequent cost to actually design the system?
There'll be a subsequent cost to design the system, and then we would have to incorporate that. Again, if this is the path that we end up going, then that would have to be incorporated into the project cost. And this is just for the irrigation for the athletic fields, not for the rest of the property.
Yeah, I think what we've discussed too is that cost for the irrigation well would then be absorbed into the alternate we're carrying for the fields.
So,
But it's not currently in the number.
It's not, the irrigation system is in there with an assumption that it's tying into the domestic water. This would be,
Yeah, I got you,
this would
gotcha.
expand your alt cost.
why doesn't this requirement impact the other landscaping areas?
I don't think we're doing irrigation for
Is
the
there
rest.
irrigation? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cause for chips, actually, irrigation is bad.
Yeah, that's what I
Right?
figured.
But athletic fields, obviously, it's a different,
It's gotta happen.
yeah, it's a different standard, and we know the kind of the condition we heard from both the recreation department as well as the athletic department at the district about this, and kind of the, when there's no rain, it's pretty tough out there. All right, and then the final change request, again, for Perkins Eastman, and we did a cover page on both of these, is for an increase in PAL. PAL is the historic consultant. They helped us both with the findings when we were doing the field research, where they found some evidence of pre-existing Native American artifacts. They were also signed up to help us with the kind of the memorialization and the recording of everything to do with the existing high school, because it sits within a historic district. So as a result of further clarifications coming out of HPHC, which is the state regulatory body, there was some added scope of work that had to happen. So what this represents is just the increase in that cost above what was the base contract. So as you see up here, it's a net increase of about $15,000 above what was already previously part of the Perkins Eastman contract. And this will allow PAL to kind of continue their work in evaluation of the building and produce that report that will ultimately go to HPHC. And Erica, please add on any comments on that process.
Is PAL's contract lump sum, or is it time and materials?
Lump sum.
Lump sum.
Yep.
But we do have in the backup, we have their breakdown of fees.
Okay.
So that concludes the 3 change orders that we have brought before this group. Happy to answer any questions.
That's helpful.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
So, in the interest of time, I will make a motion to approve item 12, the commissioning agent services for the high school roof. Item 13, the additional services irrigation well consultant Aqueous, and the additional services historical consultant PAL.
Item 14, just for Wendy's
Item
purposes.
14.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
So you're making a motion to approve all 3?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, who seconded it?
I did.
Ralph.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And that moves us to invoices, approval of invoices. So for this item, I am recommending approval of the May invoices as presented. These invoices represent services completed to maintain project schedules and advance the district's approved capital improvement initiatives. These invoices are all within the project's budget. Do I have a motion for this item?
We had discussion?
We'll make the motion
Make a
first.
motion first, yeah.
So motion to approve the
Second.
invoices.
Second.
Any discussion?
So, I have a discussion item on this. Dr. Dubin and I have been working very closely with Peregrine, and you'll see in front of you, there's a draft memo that sort of outlines our internal procedure in terms of how we would like to propose moving forward with, payment of invoices. As we get going in some of our construction, we are finding, Peregrine has helped, guide us in the, need to expedite some of the payments faster than what we are doing currently. Best practice is about 30 days is what we're aiming for, and so in order to keep more on that pace, especially as we have more construction and capital improvement projects going, we're proposing the outlined process here where the Thursday internal working group is going to be reviewing and approving the bills that have already come through contract approval, this group and school committee. So it's not a new approval, it's really just working through what's already been approved from the groups. Instead of coming here to this meeting once a month and approving all these invoices at once, we would be approving them on a weekly basis and reporting out to this group and also school committee. But to be very clear, it's not at all changing what this group or school committee has voted on or approved. We're working within those confines, but expediting payment within that, if it makes sense.
I still don't think that we even ever had to approve invoices, but that's just my understanding. Because first of all, half the time the stuff's already paid. So what?
I think the problem is it hasn't been paid until it goes through this process. They've been requiring minutes, I think, from these meetings to pay some of these invoices.
Okay.
So I think that's really the delay that we are seeing. So just to make sure, for transparency, we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
This is the procedure we would like to propose to follow, and as I said, we will continue to work through the confines of what the group has originally agreed upon in scope and contract. This would just be regular orders of business.
I think that'll be important, especially once more vendors come on board.
Yes.
There's nowhere to keep up with the cash flow necessary for subcontractors.
Yes.
So, as long as members of the committee, like, that are part of that working group are reviewing it, I'm happy to just be informed.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is, every invoice does get vetted through Peregrine
Yeah.
first, and with what we're doing.
Okay, any further discussion?
So
Alright.
is there, do we need to amend the motion to include this process, or are we,
Well, I think on the agenda,
Yeah, I know,
it's
technically.
approval of invoices, so I'm
so, yeah, Dr. Dubus said this was part of the process of how we, do invoices, so I'm just putting that out there.
I'm fine with amending it and just saying that, and going forward, we'll follow this the
Okay.
process.
So I'll make a motion to approve all invoices and also follow the process outlined by Bridget with regard to the
In the memo.
invoice workflow.
Second.
Further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Last item is meeting of adjournment.
One quick second, so we're gonna figure out the July meeting, correct? And we'll get back to everybody, just in terms of next meeting.
Well, we voted on July 15th.
Yeah, no, it's July 15th.
And but we're gonna just like triple check with Dr. Duba and
Yep.
everything, right?
Yep.
Okay. Just wanna make sure.
All right,
Okay,
motion to adjourn.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, have a good night, thanks for
Thank
being
you.
thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.
I
Bridget,
was thinking.
do you remember just about specifically about this?
And I'll
Let's try to bring it up. I'm not gonna bring it up.
Thanks, Ralph.
Bye, Ralph, thanks.
It's funny about the meeting that I have to leave.
Bye, thank you.